Hi there. Small UK businesses can get tax credits for R&D activities. We'll guide you.
Hello there. If you're running a small or medium-sized business here in the UK, you could be sitting on a significant cash injection from the government, and you might not even know it. Today, with some brilliant insights from the tax advisors at Pro Tax Accountant, we're going to walk you through the SME Research and Development Tax Credit Scheme. It's a really powerful incentive, and our only goal today is to make the whole thing simple and clear for you.
Right, let's kick things off with a really important fact. Every single year, thousands of fantastic UK businesses are literally leaving money on the table. Why? Well, it's often because they hear the phrase research and development and they immediately think of people in white lab coats. They believe the innovative problem-solving they do every day isn't scientific enough to qualify. Stay with me here because this is a huge and often very costly misunderstanding.
And you know, what's really interesting is the specific word the government uses here, reward. This isn't just about ticking boxes on another tax form. It's a deliberate reward for companies like yours that are pushing boundaries, creating better processes, and driving the British economy. It doesn't matter if you're in manufacturing, software, or even food science. If you're innovating, this scheme was designed for you.
So let's look at this as a journey. We're going to map out the entire process, from your very first step right to the finish line. We'll show you the rewards waiting at the end, but we'll also be honest about the challenges and the common tripwires to avoid. So let's get going and approach the very first gate.
First things first, before we go any further, we have to check if your business is even eligible to start this journey. Honestly, getting this right from the beginning saves so much time and hassle later on. There are two parts to this. First, is your company an SME? And second, is your project the kind of work that qualifies? Let's tackle the company side of things first.
So this is a question I want you to ask yourself right now. As we go through the specific criteria, just think about your own company's numbers. Do you fit the definition of an SME in the eyes of HMRC? It's a really simple check, but it's absolutely fundamental to this whole process. Okay, so let's break this down. There are three criteria. The first one is straightforward, your staff headcount. You have to have fewer than 500 employees. Simple. Now you'll want to hear this next bit because this is where people get confused. You only need to meet one of the next two financial thresholds. So either your turnover is under 100 million euros or your balance sheet total is under 86 million euros. Not both, just one of them. That's a really key point.
So, your company fits the bill as an SME. That's brilliant. But it's only half the battle. Now we need to look at the actual work you're doing. And this is where so many businesses count themselves out when they really shouldn't. Your project needs to be seeking an advance in science or technology. Now, that doesn't mean inventing a teleportation device. It could be a software company in Birmingham figuring out a much faster way to process data. If you hit real technical roadblocks, you're on the right track.
Now, HMRC has a really clever test for this. They ask, could a competent professional in your field have solved this problem easily? Think of an expert, someone who really knows their stuff. If they'd have to stop, think, experiment, and try a few things because the answer wasn't obvious, well, then you are almost certainly doing R&D. That technical uncertainty is the absolute key.
Right, so you've passed the eligibility gate. You're an SME, and you've got a project that qualifies. Fantastic. Now we get into the heart of the matter, preparing the actual claim. This part can feel a bit daunting, I know, but if we break it down into simple steps, it's actually very manageable. This is the real how-to part of our journey.
Okay, so here's the path ahead. 4 key steps, and I really have to stress this next point. Step 1 is absolutely crucial. If this is your first time claiming, or if you haven't claimed in the last 3 years, you now have to tell HMRC you're going to make a claim in advance. You have to do this within 6 months of the end of the accounting period you're claiming for. If you miss that deadline, HMRC can, and almost certainly will, reject your entire claim.
Now for the important bit, the money. What can you actually claim for? Well, the costs have to be directly linked to the R&D work. So you can see what qualifies. Your people, of course, a portion of their salaries, national insurance, pensions. Software you use for the project, cloud computing costs, materials that got used up in the process, all of those count. What you can't claim for are things like your office rent, marketing costs, or legal fees for a patent. Those are seen as general business costs, not R&D costs.
So why bother with all of this? Well, this number is why. For SMEs that are making a loss, this scheme can give you a cash payment from HMRC of up to 27 pence for every single pound you spent on R&D. Think about that. If you spent $100,000 on innovation, you could get a $27,000 cash payment back. This isn't just a tax break, it's cash in your bank account that you can use to grow, to hire, to fund your next great idea.
Okay, you're eligible, you've identified your projects, and you've calculated your costs. You're on the home stretch now. The final leg of our journey is the submission itself. This is all about packaging up all your hard work correctly to make sure it goes through the system at HMRC as smoothly as possible.
So what goes in that final package? It's a few key documents. You've got your main company tax return, the CT600, and the special R&D pages, which are called the CT600L, plus that claim notification form if you needed it. But the most important one here, which is now mandatory for every single claim, is the digital additional information form. This is an online form where you have to give HMRC all the details about your projects and costs before you're even allowed to submit your tax return.
And here's a pro tip for you, straight from the experts. While that digital form is mandatory, it's also highly recommended that you submit a separate, detailed technical report. It's not compulsory, but it is absolutely best practice. This report is where you tell the story of your innovation. You explain what you started with, what you were trying to achieve, the technical problems you faced, and how you tried to solve them. A good report answers all of HMRC's questions before they even have to ask, which massively reduces the chance of a long and stressful inquiry.
So, you've clicked Submit. All your hard work is now with HMRC. So, what happens next? Well, this is the best part of the journey, the part where all that effort pays off with a real, tangible financial boost for your business. Let's take a look at what that reward looks like.
It works in one of two ways, and it just depends on whether your company made a profit or a loss. If you're profitable, the R&D relief simply reduces your corporation tax bill, so you pay less tax. Simple. But if your company is loss-making, which many innovative businesses are, you can actually surrender that loss to HMRC, and they'll give you a direct cash payment right into your bank account. And the best part? HMRC aims to process most of these claims within 40 days, so the turnaround can be surprisingly quick.
Now, no journey is ever completely smooth. A good guide doesn't just point you down the sunny path, they also warn you about the potholes. So in this last section, we want to share a bit of wisdom on how to avoid the common mistakes and what you should do if things don't go quite to plan.
It's the question that a lot of business owners are worried about. What if, after all that work, HMRC just says no? Look, it can feel like a real blow, but it's so important to know that an initial rejection isn't always the end of the road. There is a formal process for disputes. And if your claim is solid, you absolutely have the right to appeal that decision. Of course, the best way to deal with rejection is to avoid it in the first place. By far the biggest reason claims get rejected is that the technical advance just isn't explained clearly enough. That goes right back to the importance of a good technical report. The other big reasons are getting the costs wrong or just not having the evidence to back up your numbers. The good news is, with careful preparation, all of these are completely avoidable. Now, if your claim is rejected, you need to act fast, and I can't stress this enough, the clock starts ticking immediately. From the moment you receive that rejection letter, you have just 30 calendar days to formally ask for an internal review. If that doesn't work, you can move on to mediation and eventually a tribunal, but missing that initial 30-day window can mean losing your right to appeal altogether. And finally, a very important point. The information we've shared with you today is for general guidance. The R&D tax rules can be complicated and every business is different. So, it is absolutely essential that you speak to a qualified expert before you take any action.
A specialist advisor can guide you through this entire journey, making sure your claim is strong, compliant, and gets you the maximum benefit you're entitled to. If you'd like that kind of expert help, please do get in touch with the team at ProTax Accountant. We've put all their details up on the screen for you. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the ProTax Accountant channel for more helpful guides just like this one.